For the latest on Mr. Modi's visit to Japan, let's speak to Seijiro Takeshita, Professor of Management and Information at the University of Shizuoka. Professor, thank you for joining us. Can we start off with what's the significance of the timing of Prime Minister Modi's visit to Japan? Why is he making this trip now?
Well, this is a perfect timing in the sense that both India and Japan have mutually same headache, and that is basically this incomprehensive bullying, or I say request from the United States, which is basically losing out as a leader in the free world, thus creating a lot of ambiguity in the economic side. And also on the security side, both Japan and India are getting a threat from China. Now, threat from China is obviously not only the economic side, but the military side as well. So obviously, there are lots of things that India and Japan have in common, which they can cooperate to basically ward off their headaches.
Let's go into what they can cooperate on. What are the two sides looking to strengthen in terms of both trade and defense?
Well, one of the clear thing about Japan is that, well, from a military point of view, we're already in Quad, which is basic incorporation with India, Australia, Japan, and the United States. So if you look at the economic side, what they're trying to create is a formulation of semiconductor barrier against China. We already have Chip 4 in Japan, which basically is creating the wall against China, but now India is joining in. Especially in this supply chain of semiconductor. And obviously, India has an excellent, human resource as far as things like, IT-related issues, whereas Japan can provide a lot of semiconductor manufacturing capability, particularly in products that are related to materials like, hydrogen fluoride, etc. So there's a lot of things that we can basically mutually, benefit by tying up. The problem here is that we don't have enough tie-up with India. We need to see more of the personnel, interchange, and that's one of the things that two prime ministers will be talking about later on.
So it seems the two sides can harness the strengths they have to work together. How would you say relations between the two countries have evolved over the years?
Well, again, having mutual headache is basically one of the very strong factors to glue these two together. I think what we'll be seeing is a lot more of interaction on Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, because we know that because of the United States actions, which is leaving out the coalition of the free world, therefore, China is trying to take advantage through, increasing their presence in things like Comprehensive Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP, or all these kind of issues that China is trying to start and creep in. Now, both India and Japan is feeling threat on both the economic and the military side from China. So basically what they will be doing is to strengthen their tie in this Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, which includes, the Quad 4 countries, and especially, India and Japan, which still has a very big room for continuous growth participation for both countries.
Defense, as you mentioned, is quite in focus during these talks between the two leaders. India is the second largest importer of arms after Ukraine. Could this cooperation with Japan be seen as India pivoting away from its traditional arms suppliers like Russia, France, Israel, and the US?
I think so. I think what we'll be seeing is India is trying to diversify in many issues, particularly, the problem is that they still have a very strong ties with China on economy, Japan as well. But they want to make sure that this supply chain isn't over-reliant to China, because that's how, things could be controlled. So obviously they want to ward away from that. And again, the economic ties and also security issues, military related, is very heavily correlated. So these are the issues that, both India and Japan is trying to gradually, lessen the effect from China in order to sustain their independence, especially at times when we're seeing the United States basically moving toward anocracy, away from democracy, and not being the strong leader of the free world. So we basically have to create coalitions outside from the leadership in the United States. That's one of the problems that we're all facing right now.
You mentioned that both have connections with China economically, and we know that after visiting Japan,
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Modi is headed to China for the SCO summit. What message could Prime Minister Modi be trying to send about India's priorities, and what does it mean for Japan?
Well, basically, I think the message is same for Japan and India towards China, and that is that we'd like to sustain a good relationship in the economy, but at the same time, we're very careful and we are fully aware the methodology that you have taken in the past, which is basically to creep into these countries by sustaining, a lot of funds, etc. Especially in areas like infrastructure or what have you, and then really increasing influence, which we don't want to have because they're unitarian states and we don't want to be governed by unitarian states. So obviously it's like we'd like to keep the relationship, but we're all very careful and we're aware of your true intent. I think those are the true messages that you want to convey towards China.
You had mentioned trade frictions with the US. We know that Japan secured a deal, whereas
Mm,
India was slapped with one of the highest tariff rates. Could tensions
mm.
with the US be pushing India to turn to other trading partners like Japan? And along with Japan, which other trading partners do you think it could approach?
Not only India, but it's all countries around the world. I mean, this totally unreasonable, illogical, bullying that is coming from the United States, or I should say, the Trump administration, is basically causing, reorganization and reclustering of, free world trade. And especially as I just mentioned, there's a lot of coalition that need to be reformed, especially in things like IPEF or RCEP, and even CPTPP, where China is trying to really increase their influence. But at the same time, again, I think India and Japan are fully aware that this is giving a golden opportunity for China. So this is another area that I think we have to be very careful about. And unfortunately, I don't think Trump administration is fully aware of the consequences of their actions.
Thank you, Professor, for sharing your insights with us. That was Seijiro Takeshita, Professor of Management and Information at the University of Shizuoka.